Good morning, Gemma. I'm aware that you have met. I'm aware of your beautiful shares. And my inability to meet with you is a great example of all the circumstances in the universe orchestrating to receive the knowledge, for the knowledge to arise within my being through my speech, and that for it to enter your ears. So every time we are able to complete a transmission, we are very fortunate that all the gods have blessed us with the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, obstacles come in the way, either on our end or our teacher's end, and that transmission is not possible. But I'm pleased to be with you. And I thought concluding session to our study would be fruitful. And I have heard your shares, and it delighted me. And I wonder if you have any questions from the churning that has emerged. I would be happy to respond to you.
I have a question. Thank you. I was watching a previous session, and something came up about how it's very easy for us to relate to the very first verse. I'm not the mind, I'm not the ego. And then as we got further in, it's harder to relate to the experience of those things, panchakoshas, and these different parts that he gets into. And though I think and we generally have some sense of what they are from what we've learned with you, and the experience of them is something that I would like to go further into. And I'm just not sure how to do that, go from my head to, the actual experience of the things that he's talking about, or that's in the chant. So that's a question.
Well, that's an astute question. And remember that these teachings are offered to seekers who have been with a teacher for some time, such as yourself. And you have been exposed to the concept of Panchakoshas with me, through the Tattvabodha study that you underwent. And at different times we have mentioned them. Sometimes a seeker can get stuck thinking of themselves as the Panchakoshas. So wherever we are stuck, Shankaracharya has covered all those categories of Mayik or Maya-based identity. So I am aware of speakers who talk about Panchakosha all the time. And their identity got stuck in a teaching tool. For some people, especially when you come to India, their identity is stuck a lot in the name of the family or the caste. For some people, their relations matter a lot. And some people get stuck being the shishya to their guru. And they feel that that is the holy grail of identity. Whereas all of these were identities to support us have a certain experience. The shishya identity is to have a spiritual experience. The child identity is to have a biological experience. The friend identity is to have a social experience. And while the guru-shishya is an important relationship upheld by the Vedas, yet even that should not hold oneself back from recognizing the Satchit Ananda nature of one's true being. So it is a credit to the poet, to the expresser of this mighty truth, Shankaracharya, who was a student himself and had many students as a guru, and yet could show the path to all humanity, that even while one becomes a student and feels, I've arrived, or one becomes a guru and feels, I have arrived, we are not that. These are still worldly identities. So in that leap that we make inwardly to our Satchidananda nature, to our Shiva nature, then we leave behind those categories, and not each one of them may necessarily bring you a greater revelation, Arjuna, but to some they are important. Good question. Arya?
Well, a real similar question would be, how do we experience that Satchit Ananda? What would be the next step to experiencing that? These studies have clearly verified, in my mind, these ancient teachings that everything is an expression of this divine force, and that we are, in essence, embody that divine force also. But so what is the next step for perceiving this more directly or experiencing it? Or is it, I guess, which of the path of yoga is best for me to pursue? What's the next step?
Naturally, it is but natural to be curious about not only learning about it, but embodying the Shiva nature. The path of yoga that will best take you to it is Jnana Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. However, the yoga of wisdom is not directly. You got exposure to the yoga of wisdom. Nirvana Shatakam is an aspect of that, and it speaks to your credit as a soul, to your journey as a soul, Arya, that this is your first encounter with Jnana Yoga, and you felt moved and also more excited to commit to it. But for the deepest understanding, not just for a thrill, intellectual thrill,
Right.
because we get intellectual thrill from these concepts of consciousness and infinity, and
Yes.
and then we forget and we go ahead and be the body and be pretty finite in our everyday life. But for it to have a true transformation, what we are doing now, which is discovering, exploring Bhakti Yoga, is the ideal first step. First, the ego has to be made more pure and less important.
Okay.
And to bring gradually the concept of Ishvara that same Shiva as Ishvara, not as self, but as Ishvara in our life, is a very healthy start. So that in times of achievement or success, we do not let the individual ego be the actor so much as my success and my failure, as much as Ishvara's will. So through Bhakti Yoga, we, so to say, calm down the ego. Related next yoga is Karma Yoga, which I shall be teaching after Bhakti Yoga, where we start spending our 24 hours for our Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, but also for others, where we start living for the universe, seeing the universe as Ishvara's domain. And it sounds easy, but it brings up the worst in people. Because after a while, the ego says, why should I live for other people? Why should I give? Why should I serve? So it brings up a lot of hidden control of our own sense of identity. So after this Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, we go through a more contained yoga. We are already coming into a space of now we're really preparing to receive Jnana Yoga, because we've become more purified and so not so small anymore. We are more universal in our being. Now comes in a yoga called Upasana Yoga, which teaches us, for example, yoga, asana, and meditation is part of Upasana Yoga, or pranayama, or some of the sadhanas that I teach, like the Jyoti Kriya. These are all parts of Upasana Yoga. They're like, why do you even bother doing the Jyoti Kriya, or why do you even bother doing Anulom Vilom Pranayam, or eating right? It now all makes sense that I'm really becoming ready to experience my own divinity. And so Upasana Yoga, though I'm teaching it from the beginning, just makes more sense. This is why the rishis would, do Surya Namaskar or go out and pray to the sun, because everything is now sacred and we are on a journey to our own being. And then, if you have completed these yogas in a proper manner, and you once again revisited Nirvana Shatakam. So you went back and said, oh, I remember that in 2023-24, Shunya had taught me that Nirvana Shatakam, let me go back and listen to it. And maybe by the third para, you're just listening and you are there.
I hope so.
Yeah, because all the obstacles have been removed to the other yogas. Then you don't have to learn to be something that you are. You already are that. So the distance that we feel, how do I get there? How to be that? How to self-realize is only the obstacles within our own being that are keeping us from realizing what we already are.
Right, okay.
The other yogas which feel less glamorous and unimportant almost, let me get to the chase, but those are the yogas that remove the layers of Maya or of worldly identity, worldly ego, worldly blindness that is keeping us from the truth of being who we already are. And so perhaps when Shankaracharya was chanting that I am Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, it was an expression of his pivotal realization. His realization. Now, in the ancient days, this is how it was taught by the same teacher. And of course, we wanted Ishvara or Brahman or Atman to orchestrate that we live that long and our teacher lives that long. But Lord Krishna has said that if you truly want this knowledge, then even if you die and you're not there, but you are in the middle of the yogas, you're still in the journey, then it is my responsibility to ensure that you can continue this journey in the very next life, or you may even be born in your guru's household, the next guru's household. So when a being begins this journey based on their sincerity, they can conclude their journey in the very next story. So there is no fear of time. And it is a known fact that whatever you start wanting starts coming close to you. That is the law of magnetism that works in this universe.
Right.
So when you want to realize your Shiva nature, your Brahman nature, your Atman nature, then this is a journey that is, first of all, initiated for very few, but it becomes completed for even lesser people, because to the degree that you want it, it starts coming to you, and then at some point you will meet your biological end of this body, but you shall be given even a better body to pursue it. So for example, someone like myself, I didn't have to go search for my guru. I feel like, okay, this is a conclusion of some previous journeys, but here, you get to have this. So that's one thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So in the ancient days, these yogas would be taught starting with either karma yoga or bhakti yoga. Basically, you cannot teach karma without bhakti and bhakti without karma, but basically this is taught. Then upasana yogas are taught, and then jnana yoga is continuously given. So I have written a new book. I have sent a proposal, which could not fit all the yogas, but at least bhakti, karma, and upasana are in it. And Gyan, I will publish a separate one. And I'm hoping that in the Vedic way, I can teach 1 year of bhakti, 1 year of
Right.
karma yoga, 1 year focused on upasana, and then 1 year focused on jnana yoga. And not everybody will make it there. We'll see. At least I'll do one cycle. I hope this helps.
Thank you very much. I see the path. Thank you very much.
I think Marinella, your hand is raised. You should go for it.
Sorry?
I saw your hand raised. I just thought you had a question.
Oh, I was just...
Oh, I had a question, Shunya-ji, if we have time.
Go ahead.
So my question is more about the last verse, and I need guidance on how to approach this, because it feels a little hard for me, where he says, neither am I attached, neither free nor captive. So the part that is, I wouldn't say difficult, but where it says neither free, but I thought this whole thing was about stating I am free from all these things. And why is he saying neither free? So now he's also negating not being free, where the purpose of this thing is like, I'm free from the ego, the intellect, the mind, the thoughts, the knowledge, the values, everything. shedding everything, and now it's even saying I'm neither free. So how do I approach this so that it's a bit confusing?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent catch. I was wondering when one of you will catch that, but of course you did. So in the first line, he says, Aham nirvikalpo. Vikalpa means any change. I am changeless. I am nirakara rupo. I am without form. So he has declared what is their true being, true nature. It is nirvikalpo and nirakara rupo. It is changeless and formless, right? So, and I am present everywhere. So now when he has realized that in the last paragraph, he has asserted, this last paragraph is very important because it asserts his true nature. Shankaracharya is asserting our true nature. So when we are in this state of pure spirit, pure consciousness, then adjectives or states of being such as being attached or being free, then these states of experience belong to the jiva. They belong to the mind. They belong to the persona. If you have ever realized that you are feeling deeply sabotaged by someone, and you could have spent a decade feeling sabotaged, held back, suppressed. And then through spiritual learning, meditation, you realize that none of that matters. It's not true. And you just move on. Have you had that experience? That was just a mental thing that you had created. So the kind of freedom that's being discussed here, I want to be free, I want to be free, I want to be liberated, I want to be liberated. Who is yearning to say, I want to be liberated, I want to be self-realized? Because that's only the ego. That's only the jiva self that is whining and crying to be liberated. When eternally liberated, Nitya Mukta is your true essence. So this is a juxtaposition of what the persona believes. This whole journey that I am leading you on is really who's taking this journey, not your true self. It's that little persona that's taking the self that has become alienated from its true nature. But in its true nature, it doesn't have to, your true nature was never bound, so there is no question of liberation either. And this is an interesting thing, that when we become attuned to that truth vibration within us, the truth and the light in that truth reveals all the half-truths. So yes, there was a part of you that felt in bondage, and so now it needs liberation. But there is always a part of you that was always boundless and liberated. And when you reach there, there is no, this didactic of liberation and attachment no longer matter. So does that help? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. When you said we shouldn't think in terms of objectives, that these are just I guess these are these superimpositions.
Superimpositions.
Yeah.
You got it. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
The difference between psychology and Advaita Vedanta is this. There's a lot of modern psychology that talks about the journey of the person, but it's always the journey of the mind, journey of the persona. Whereas here, it is a seeing through the persona. So it's almost like when we go through the study of the yogas with the teacher, and we do our Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, we outcommission the persona. If that's the word. Yeah. I don't know if you felt it, but if you have a meditating practice, or if you are able to go deep into meditation, and you might close your eyes in the middle of a lot of drama, and your persona may be trying to figure it out, right or wrong, good, bad, left or right, truth or false. But when you close your eyes and you go into that special place, none of that matters. So there is a transcendent well-being there, what we're talking about here, that it's ever free. And you are never, never in bondage. And actually, it is this ever free part that edges you onwards to experience that similar power, similar freedom, similar joy, similar expansiveness in your persona. Nobody ever says on earth, I would like to be in bondage. I would like to be in darkness. I would like to be unhealthy. I would like to have no power. Nobody says it. They come into it, those negative experiences, but nobody wants it because their deepest nature is of expansiveness, of spaciousness, of joy, of bliss. That's our truth. Though we may have temporarily forgotten it, but not entirely. That's why we feel so upset when we experience bondage. That is why when we get very attached, we ourselves feel uncomfortable. So an ideal would be that the more we understand our true nature, we can train our persona to act and be in that manner. And of course, at the state of self-realization, the persona simply falls away. And what really remains is that Shivanand, that Shiva nature. Anandit Shiva nature remains. It still can drive a car and it can pay an electricity bill, but that nature is a higher nature.
Shinyaji, that was so helpful to me right now. I'm just sitting outside and I'm looking at things and I'm realizing that just naming things is a kind of bondage in a certain way, just labeling things that, rather than the fluidity of just being, of which, so I just very liberating it's liberating to breathe. I realize I've been thinking about why he starts off with that. The mind is the first thing, because that's where we are. That's where we're trapped. I can see that's where I'm trapped. And, I start naming things, whatever I'm naming, it's just trapping myself rather than just the movement, the fluidity of everything, and how that's connected with the breath, that the breathing is so, the inflow and outflow uninterrupted kind of keeps all that going rather than getting stuck somewhere up here. So it's a lot of jumble of thoughts at the moment, but how you said it. Oh, the last thing I want to say, what I'm experiencing more is like a shedding rather than accumulate. It's a shedding. We're just shedding this, all these accumulations that we've developed over years and years of beliefs, of feelings, of just shedding it, like downsizing, really downsizing.
So you start to points. The latter point, I agree completely that it is a shedding, a downsizing, or a right sizing, you can say. For the first part, I wanted to add a thought to you that remember we talked about 3 types of reality. And this is the transactional reality in which the persona has forgotten its truth. So if you see a cup, it's a cup. If you see a person, it's a person. If you see daddy, it's daddy. If it's mommy, it's mommy. But the difference in Ajnani, the difference in a person who knows, who has some inkling of Jnana Yoga would be that this is a cup, but it is not entirely a cup. Because even modern quantum science has now configured that the net matter here is very less. There is lots of space, lots of, quantum field here. And if you go inside, this is solid, but inside there is fluid nanoparticles. And inside the fluid nanoparticles, there is only a vibration. Get into the string vibrations. And inside that, there is a field. So even science has agreed that what you see is not exactly what is. And if you have an inkling of Jnana Yoga, you can say, okay, I woke up to the waking dream, to the transactional reality. I see a cup, and you can then elicit a knowledgeable response to all of this. This could be like a family heirloom, and it's my family heirloom, and I will fight wars for this heirloom, and if it breaks, I will have an episode of. None of that is important, because all of this is Shiva's manifestation in the transactional world. It is what is known as, there are 2 kinds of manifestations. One is known as, I'm introducing 2 Sanskrit words, Jada, Jada, and the other is Chetan, Chetan, Chetan. You can say Jada. Jada means where the consciousness seems to be sleeping. And Chetan means where the consciousness seems to be alive, as in me. Okay. And even you, Arjuna, and all of you are made up of partly Jada, where your bones, your hair, your nails, your body, it is Jada. And you, the pure being in it, is Chetan. And this whole manifestation is the manifestation outside the scope of this hymn specifically, but these are very advanced topics of creation and appearance. But I can say this much, that even a pile of horse shit is ultimately part of this cosmic appearance. And that cosmic appearance, behind that is Brahman. So if you don't see the cup, but if you just see the cup plus Brahman, phone plus Brahman, enemy plus Brahman, lovers plus Brahman, good people Brahman, bad people Brahman, and then within you search that Brahman, you then gradually lead a somewhat intellectually, that you can name things, but those naming things don't elicit that much attachment from you. Does that help? Okay.
Good morning, Acharya Shunya. I have a question. We were talking about how we get in touch with our inner Shiva, but we are not using Shiva in the triad of the gods, but beyond that, where Shiva is really Ishvara. And so I don't feel an attachment to Shiva, because it is Ishvara. So am I missing something there?
I think at this stage, to think of the word Shiva here as pure consciousness is best, or as Brahman is best. And because you are new to Jnana Yoga, any further explanations may confuse you. So this is enough for you to know that Shiva here is another word for that which is the truth, the light within us. Is that helpful, my dear?
Yes.
Or does it
Also,
not answer your question?
yes, that helps. And also that I guess I'm seeing Shiva as purely dissolving. That's I'm equating the Shiva as the dissolution.
You're equating Shiva as the dissolving away. Yeah, so if this becomes a little confusing because I think for poetic reasons, Shankaracharya, and not for poetic reasons, but it's also actually a fact that the word Shiva, which I explained in my first class itself, has many connotations. It's not only the god that dissolves or destroys illusion. Shiva also represents the ultimate reality. So what you want to do in this hymn is see Shiva not as Ishvara alone, not as the Ishvara's facet of destruction, but as the ultimate reality, as Atman. And so when you say Shivoham, you are claiming that aspect of you that is the ultimate truth beyond the changeable body, changeable mind. That is the ultimate reality that is one with the ultimate reality. Okay? That's how you want to see it. We don't want to go into the understanding of Ishvara and then as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. We don't want to go there for now. We don't want to go there.
Yes, thank you. The ultimate reality, the ultimate truth. Yes, that's right.
And in Jnana Yoga, we go beyond Ishvara. So in Bhakti Yoga, you're getting a little peek of what happens. Like when we are in Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, we go, oh, there is this something ultimate called Ishvara. Wow, let me serve it. Let me be devoted to it. Let me chant to it. And, and people have built temples to it, and let me purify my home for it and my heart for it. And then in Jnana Yoga, we come face to face with Ishvara in our own Atman. So there is a preparation for it. Because if it is Jnana Yoga right away, then murderers and rapists will walk away around saying, I am Ishvara. And everybody will get this, this ego. So their ego will become crazy. So when we recognize that Ishvara is within as Atma Brahman, but we've gone through the proper yogas, this doesn't do a number on our ego. It settles us in the universe. Because there is only one Ishvara, right? So how can they be separate things? So we are all part of that divine light. Do you understand? Briefly? That's all. That's how far I can go right now with this teaching. But if you spend, let's say, today you are here, let's look at like 3 more years of understanding yoga. And let's say you revisit Nirvana Shatakam. There'll be a big difference.
And one other
Not
thing.
just in understanding the words, but you will have a similar experience.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the 4 years. And I want to ask also, when you recite it, are you reciting it silently? I mean, because we've been doing it out loud, and I do my practice out loud. But one day I due to circumstances, I had to do it quietly. And it was different. It was, I think it was the reverberation of the peacefulness lasted longer by doing it silently. So I'm just wondering, what do you do?
There are no rules to it. And actually, I don't recite it anymore. I use it. Or I'm not very active with this stotram, but I used to use it a lot when I went through a more challenging time on my being. I would use it, and my own mind was not supporting me. So I would, simply remember Mano Bhakta Ahankara Chitta Ninam. And as I said it, or as I silently went over it, I would separate from the mind. I'm not this mind, no matter what it's telling me. I'm not this buddhi, even though it has concluded some depressing situation. I'm not this ahankar, though it's feeling like it wants to take revenge. I'm not these memories, even though they want to give me pain, and I would experience this space. So I would use like one line from here or there. Or for example, if I was eating a lot and I would nacha shotra jivhe, I'm not my jivha. So the goal of a hymn is to memorize, yes, but to memorize ultimately from the sound we want to move. Sound is known as dhvani. From the sound we want to move to its meaning, known as artha. Yes, artha is also financial goal, and artha also means meaning. So we want to move into the meaning of each individual word. This is a whole reality laid out for you. This is the tool to detach from conditioned behavior. So once I detach from my tongue or my ego, and then I speak something, or then I come to some deliberation, it has a more freer consciousness there. So I'm going to say you can sing it out loud as we used to when we first learned it, then it became quieter. And now I don't sing the whole thing, but it's a piece of knowledge for me that I have. And because I've used it often, not just occasionally, but often, it has done its work. The Mananam and the Nididhyasana on it has generated much more ananda in my being, much more tethering into my own being. That doesn't mean that when we do that, we are leaving behind our persona our persona is not the English word for kids who don't, or it's not an orphan. Persona is not an orphan. In fact, our persona was an orphan earlier, when it didn't have this higher divine connection. It was lost in the world, struggling, yelling, fighting. Now the persona has to stand for something. It can, because it knows Shivoham, Shiva. So you can become quite strong with this inner being, because now you don't fight for petty reasons. You take a stand for dharma. You take a stand for right or wrong. So this happened in America when the first wave of teachers came of Vedanta, and they started teaching Vedanta, especially the new kind of Vedanta, Neo-Vedanta, which is separate from its scriptural basis. Neo-Vedanta does not bring up Shankaracharya, or it doesn't bring up the yogas and a lot of like being without any tether in the world. And that kind of became this version of non-duality where there is only love, only peace, only floating awareness. This is not the traditional manner because Lord Krishna took Arjuna to the war. So when in transactional reality, Arjuna and everyone, you have to have your persona. But do not have your persona untethered to your true being, the inner Shiva. That's all we are asking. Makes so much more sense because when you are in the dream world, you have to drink dream water. Regular water on your bedside doesn't help. When you are in the transactional world, you have to drink transactional water and work hard for it and pay the bills to your utilities to have water through your tap. But in the transactional world and later even in the dream world, you can gradually become aware of the inner Sakshi, the inner Shiva, the inner truth. And this is the end of these worlds. And gradually, when your natural biological death occurs, it won't feel like death. You will be fully awake, like Baba was, with his eyes open, big smile, chanting his Om and departing to become light for all of us. You realize you're just shedding your clothes and you're done. You will no longer enter this dream again. Okay, and then you can be one in your true Shiva essence. That's the goal. So we can't really, there is no requirement in any of these yogas to escape from the world of transaction or to make it overly light and airy. It is what it is, and it is of polarities, good, bad, right, wrong, youth and old age, death and birth, spring and winter. They all come one after another. One has come, the other will come. If success has come, fall will come. If love has come, hatred will come. This is the reality. The reality. But we are lost in it. And you don't want to simply be your mind, your intellect, and your ego all by itself trying to navigate this. You may want to now go within, connect with your truth, realize that these are all your tools and this is not your ultimate reality, and connect with your true Shiva nature. And then when you come back into the battle place of the transactional reality, you may or may not have peace outside, but you have peace within. You may have to go to war like Arjuna had to, but from an inwardly balanced place. Does this help you all? It's a very practical spirituality in some sense, and I feel that it doesn't create this chasm between the world and spirit, which religions like to do. In the world of spirit, everything is beautiful, everything is amazing. But then, if you are spirit, then why are you stuck here? And if you are stuck here, then this too is some realm of the spirit that you have to be in. But right here and now, you can start discovering through these lines, through these pairings of a seeker who lived a couple of 1,000 years ahead of you. He discovered them. He wrote them. And they become your experience. That is the
Sunyaji, could I just ask could I ask you a suggestion on purification of the ego? Like, for example, practicing the Shankaracharya Shatakam, that is one way we could work towards purifying the ego. When I get involved in some activity, I could just remind myself that I am not that activity. So I just I can see this teaching very useful for purification of the ego, but you have some other possible. I want to expand my understanding of purification of the ego and the steps involved in that.
Yeah. I may not be able to answer your question right now,
Okay.
but we have what is known as sadhana chatushtayam, a 4-step sadhana in Jnana Yoga, which is given to aspirants to constantly work on their ego. I've given a lot of these teachings in the past, but I believe I have videos of those teachings.
Oh, that would be good. That would be fine. I'll look for them.
So let me answer you. I think the tool that you have right now of, like, say you got Nirvana Shatakam, it will take you up to a year or 2 years to possibly start using it in your life. To say, why am I getting so rallied up? Or say you come to some roaring belief and you're like, wait, is that my belief? Is that where I am? And to have some space from it and then see if it's still there. This takes some time. But this teaching of separating from the container or from the material versions of you into your true nature, this itself is perhaps one of the most powerful strategies possible. And if you just give it time and you keep coming back to it, what you realize is that you're not opinionless or powerless person. You have opinions and you have a lot of power, but they don't come from this attached, colored, biased place. They come from a truly vast galactic place. And so allow this verse to work on you. And the beauty of Jnana Yoga is that this is it. You could use this one verse and awaken. That's the beauty of Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga has do this, a lot of action. Bhakti Yoga is, again, a lot of attitude change. Jnana Yoga is an understanding. And so you could awaken in one moment. When you start truly understanding the purport of what Shankara is suggesting to all of us. It is not as, it's as simple as understanding that all these things are my material mode and I am the spirit. So just separating from it. Like you are not your car. So if the carbonator is not working or the accelerator is not working, it should not bother you. So we are able to separate ourselves from the car.
Yeah.
Though some people, they are not. If they drive a small car, they feel small. If they drive a big car, they feel big. Right? Yeah. In the same way, we, based on our family, our creed, our caste, our mind, our ego, our personal experience changes for ourselves. So if we separate, this is a huge, huge path unto itself. This is the ultimate Jnana Yoga sadhana. In the past, I have been known to be over-generous with the teachings, but it didn't take my students far. They mostly got a lot of Sanskrit words and they didn't move forward as much as they could have. So it is better to take fewer teachings and chew upon them and go deeper and make a difference. Like I could tell you the Sadhana Chatushtayam and give you a bunch of Sanskrit, but what's the point when you have the ultimate weapon, which is of disengagement, of letting go, of dequalifying what you are not
Yes, that's so
and
powerful.
claiming what you are. That's the ultimate.
Disengaging. Thank you very much, Sunyaji. That's so powerful, so clear what you said.
All right. So I believe we are coming to a conclusion. Yeah, I do have a podcast to record in 5 minutes with some other external person. So thank you. Wonderful that you are all my students. I wish you the best. You have asked deep questions. Your silence has also been inquisitive, curious. So I am sure that this exchange that we are having in transactional reality is going to lead you towards a more peaceful life here and a true life within. Take care, everyone. Thank you for the privilege that you gave me of being able to share what I received from my guru. That was